the silos that we would normally have in the corporate space to enable the vision that you're speaking about right now, are those being deconstructed at the pace at which open innovation is taking over? Because essentially they need to almost run in parallel.
Look, let's not get naive. Businesses have to deliver on the numbers this month, this quarter, this year.
Yeah.
We have to do that, and you have to have people who are focused on doing that. You need a corporate culture, though, that is open to innovative ideas. But you do need the company at the top leadership level to be serious about innovation.
Let's talk people for a second, Rapeleng, because I think it's very important to make sure that the people are fit for purpose and fit for the kind of culture that we're talking about. What are the big ways of thinking about this, or themes that come around? How do we think about open innovation so our people are fit for purpose?
Sure. I think when we look at the open innovation agenda, we need to find a way to bring it to the man on the street and the other young entrepreneurs or entrepreneur wannabes that are thinking about coming into the market. And often innovation is this abstract concept that sounds like something only super smart people in big corporations can do. And I would rather unpack it and call it, or we can term it as innovation is really an authentic expression of your point of view. And when I talk about authentic expression, it's really about what are the things that you as an individual person think about that cross your mind when you aren't being pushed to think about it? What are the things that frustrate and irritate you? Because those are the things that you actually need to tap into, and with sufficient self-reflection, you can find opportunities for insight in those things around you. So innovation is much closer to home and not something sort of very, very far away. One of the renowned investors in Silicon Cape said that the best sort of startup ideas come up when an external stimulus hits a prepared mind. And that prepared mind is essentially the sum total of who you are, all the things that you've been exposed to, all the skills that you've done, all the projects that you've been part of, the things that you've noticed, and what your unique point of view in the world is. And when people tap into that, I think that's where the power comes in. I often talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs people who want to be entrepreneurs. And even when I listen to the validity of the business idea, I focus more on what is their authentic connection to this idea, because that tells me the level of insight they have on this. This is something they've thought about over years, because without that insight, you're not going to identify real competitive advantages in this solution and problem you're trying to solve. So I think we need to also look at open innovation as to how do we get individuals to reflect on how they use their unique perspectives of the world to bring innovation to the table, because that's where the real growth and potential for innovation comes from, not just within large organizations.
I love the phrase that you use, authentic connections, and I want to maybe extend it and come back to the issue of bridge makers, a phrase that is part and parcel of the Accenture language. Located for us within the broader conversation around open innovation, and where do we find bridge makers and the shape and form that they would naturally take?
Well, I mean, in the digital world today, we have got a lot of platforms that people have created, and those platforms have become an easy way of creating bridges, for example. So you're thinking about a platform for crowdsourcing, you're thinking about a platform for funding, you think about a platform for just connecting, people who have got ideas and they want to find expression in how to connect the idea into something that can come to life. You want to connect an industrial designer with a digital. The platforms exist today. So there are plenty of platforms that you could use for that. And that's what we are trying to do in South Africa through the #Innovement platform that we are creating. Is basically to say we need to integrate the innovation ecosystem in a way that somebody who comes up with a dry bath idea located in Limpopo somewhere can find expression in terms of distribution and doesn't understand anything about industrial design or about health, but can find someone who understands a lot more about chemicals and can help them to find the right formula that is going to be able to solve the problem that is looking for by just going into a simple platform and say, here is the idea, this is what I'm looking for, and people can begin to connect. So leveraging these digital platforms today, it makes it much, much more easier for people to be able to find each other and make those kind of connections. But we're also seeing a lot of the large enterprises creating platforms for their own internal staff to do innovation. And Brian talked about connecting the dots. You talked about connecting the dots inside Barclays and having RISE as a platform that people can go to and say, here is an idea, this is what I would like to do. And then somebody say, hey, this is interesting, I would like to fund it. And someone say, hey, this is good, I'll take it to market. Someone say, hey, I'll buy it. So that's basically how the ecosystem begins to work. You talk about Quirky. Quirky, basically what you're doing there is that I have got an idea, you have got people who are ready to buy the ideas, and then you use the social media to find out before a product is developed as to whether it's got a market. And then when you launch the product, you already have orders.
So you've brought me to my next question, because now you've brought in social media, which would essentially be consumers or potential consumers that could be a part of this ecosystem. So Brian, I want to get a sense, to what extent are we seeing customer immersion as part of open innovation, where the views and the insights of potential customers or existing customers are actually brought into this ecosystem?
I think the way customers behave, the way they think, is absolutely vital to innovation, but more importantly, to your point about how we bring that wisdom and that insight into our innovation processes, or how we can include it in open innovation. Our customer base is changing immensely, whether it's aging populations, Generation Y, millennials. They've got ideas. They live our products and services every day. If we don't find ways to bring their feedback into our product and innovation processes, it's our loss, not theirs, actually. So it's really vital that we bring it in. From our perspective, we always say this whole digitalization thing is actually the intersection of three areas.
Right.
It's technology, which we all know, cloud, big data, machine to machine, artificial intelligence, but it's not just that. Digitalization is about how our world, our market is changing and how business is changing. And I would argue Uber is more about a business model change than it is about the tech. I would argue Facebook is more tapping into a social phenomenon than it is about the tech. So it's really important that we bring that social dimension back into our innovation processes.